What if your kindness is killing you? Imagine discovering that your relentless drive to please others is actually a prison constructed by the very parts of yourself you've banished to the shadows. Welcome to the hidden world of the chronic people pleaser, where self-sacrifice isn't nobility, it's a symptom of a fractured psyche. I'm Ayla, and today we're diving deep into the realm of shadow work, unveiling the dark truth behind people-pleasing and charting a course towards authentic living. Let's start with a fundamental truth. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's the key to your wholeness. Coined by Carl Jung, the shadow represents the aspects of ourselves we've disowned, often out of fear or shame. For the chronic people pleaser, this shadow often holds assertiveness, self-prioritization, and the ability to say no. But here's where it gets fascinating. The more we push these traits into the shadows, the more powerful they become. To understand why, we need to explore the origins of people-pleasing behavior. 1. Origin of people-pleasing. People-pleasing often originates in childhood or early life experiences where assertiveness or authenticity was punished or led to negative outcomes. Perhaps as a child, you expressed a contrary opinion to your parents and were harshly criticized, or maybe you asserted yourself with peers and were socially ostracized. These experiences taught you that being assertive leads to rejection or pain. 2. Formation of core beliefs. These early experiences shape core beliefs about oneself and the world. You might have internalized beliefs like, "I'm only worthy if I make others happy," or "conflict is dangerous and must be avoided at all costs." These beliefs become the foundation of people-pleasing behavior. 3. Initial repression. When faced with a situation that calls for assertiveness, these core beliefs activate. You choose to suppress your authentic response due to the deeply ingrained fear of negative consequences. For instance, when a colleague asks you to take on extra work, your authentic self wants to say no, but your core beliefs trigger anxiety about potential rejection or conflict. So you agree instead. 4. Shadow formation. The repressed assertiveness doesn't disappear. Instead, it's pushed into the unconscious mind, becoming part of your shadow. Your unexpressed no and the assertiveness it represents join the shadow, along with the anger and resentment that come with self-suppression. 5. Inner tension and resentment. The repressed assertiveness in the shadow creates intense psychological tension. This tension manifests primarily as resentment. And here's why. A. Conflict of wills. Your authentic self, the repressed no, is in constant conflict with your people-pleasing behavior, the expressed yes. This internal battle creates a state of continuous stress. B. Energy expenditure. Keeping the no repressed requires constant psychological effort. This drain on your mental resources leads to feelings of exhaustion and irritability. C. Self-betrayal. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you're betraying your authentic self. This self-betrayal accumulates, fostering a growing sense of resentment towards both yourself and the person you're saying yes to. D. Misplaced blame. Unable to acknowledge your role in saying yes, you unconsciously direct your frustration towards the other person. You resent them for making you do something even though they didn't force you. E. Unmet needs. Your authentic needs remain unmet as you prioritize others. This constant self-neglect breeds resentment towards those whose needs you're meeting at your own expense. F. Loss of agency. Repeatedly ignoring your own wishes creates a sense of powerlessness. This perceived loss of control over your life fuels resentment towards those you see as controlling you, even if they're unaware of your internal struggle. For example, when you agree to take on extra work for your colleague, you might feel a gnawing sense of resentment towards them. This resentment isn't really about their request. It's the manifestation of the tension between your expressed yes and your repressed no. The resentment serves as a pressure valve, partially releasing the psychological tension created by your internal conflict. 6. Compensatory behavior. To counteract the growing pressure from the shadow, you intensify your people-pleasing behavior. You start offering to help your colleague with even more tasks, even before they ask. You might extend this behavior to others, becoming excessively helpful to everyone around you. 7. Escalation. As the shadow's pressure increases, your people-pleasing behavior must also increase to keep it repressed. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle. Your helpful behavior escalates. You start taking on responsibilities that aren't yours, sacrificing your own needs and time. You might develop a savior complex, feeling that you must solve everyone's problems. 8. Accumulating pressure. Despite the escalating people-pleasing behavior, the repressed assertiveness continues to grow stronger in the shadow. The psychological tension intensifies. You might experience physical symptoms of stress, have trouble sleeping, or feel constantly irritable. 9. Periodic eruptions. When the tension becomes too great, the shadow material periodically breaks through into consciousness, often in uncontrolled or inappropriate ways. You might suddenly snap over a minor issue, find yourself being passive-aggressive, or in extreme cases, have angry outbursts that seem disproportionate to the situation. 10. Temporary relief and guilt. The eruption provides temporary relief from psychological tension, but is often followed by guilt and intensified people-pleasing. After snapping at your colleague, you feel momentary relief, followed by intense guilt. You then redouble your efforts to be helpful, restarting the cycle. This cycle continues, often escalating over time until the underlying mechanism is recognized and addressed. Understanding this reveals why simply trying harder to be accommodating often backfires for people-pleasers. It becomes clear that people-pleasing doesn't address the root cause, the repressed assertiveness in the shadow. True change comes from integrating your shadow. This involves 1. Recognizing and challenging the core beliefs that drive people-pleasing behavior. 2. Processing and healing the early experiences that led to these beliefs. 3. Gradually learning that authenticity and assertiveness can lead to positive outcomes. 4. Developing a strong sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on others' approval. Remember, these patterns are often deeply ingrained and tied to our sense of safety and belonging. Changing them is a process that takes time, patience, and often benefits from professional support. Now, let's explore some practical exercises to begin your journey of shadow integration and overcome people-pleasing. 1. The Assertiveness Journal. Each day, write down one instance where you wanted to say no but said yes. Reflect on the emotions you felt before, during, and after the interaction. Write the no you wished you had said. This validates your authentic desire. 2. Delay tactic. When asked for a favor, respond with, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." Use this time to check in with yourself about what you truly want. Practice delivering a polite no if that's your authentic choice. 3. Mirror work. Stand in front of a mirror and practice saying no out loud. Observe your body language and facial expressions. Aim for a firm but kind demeanor. Repeat affirmations like, "I have the right to say no," or "My needs are important." 4. Resentment mapping. List the people you feel resentment towards. For each person, identify what you've said yes to when you wanted to say no. This reveals where your boundaries need strengthening. 5. Values clarification. List your top 5 personal values. Before agreeing to something, ask, "Does this align with my values?" Use this as a guide for authentic decision-making. 6. Worst case scenario exercise. Imagine the worst possible outcome of saying no to someone. Now, realistically evaluate the likelihood of this outcome. This often reveals our fears as exaggerated, making no less daunting. 7. Gradual exposure. Start saying no to small, low-stakes requests. Gradually work up to more significant boundaries as you build confidence. 8. Self-care non-negotiables. List 3 to 5 self-care activities that are crucial for your well-being. Commit to these as non-negotiable, even when others make requests. 9. Feelings check-in. Set a reminder 3 times a day to check in with your feelings. If you notice resentment, ask yourself, where did I override my own needs? 10. Shadow dialogue. Write a dialogue between your people-pleasing self and your assertive self. Allow your assertive self to express its needs and frustrations. This gives voice to your shadow and can reveal insights about your behavior. Remember, change takes time. Be patient and compassionate with yourself as you practice these exercises. Consistent small steps lead to significant transformation. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the shadow self and people-pleasing. If this video resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others who might be struggling with similar issues. Subscribe for more deep dives into the human psyche, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts or experiences with shadow work. Your journey towards wholeness begins now.